Good morning, spiritual champions, and welcome back to Talking Spirit Leaves podcast. And of course, I am your holy host, Ashalayan Snow, and that will never change. Now, everything I speak about on my channel, please keep in mind, this you should know, this you should consider, perhaps, wonder about, okay? Everything that I discuss is coming from personal experience, my culture, and of course, university training. Okay? Now, before we get started, I like to say the reason that I switch disciplines, okay? I have enough curriculum on my transcript to own a psychology degree, okay? I dumped psychology and picked up, theology, so to speak. Some people could say religion, liberal arts, or something like that. But I dumped psychology, and why I dumped psychology is because, I learned something. I learned something about myself, and I hope as you watch these videos that you can learn something about yourself. Okay. Now, before we get started, I also would like to say that, quote unquote, I'm exhausted. Y'all exhaust me because I'm trying to hide my true self. That's the same dunce who said, she get her energy from her coffee. Okay. You know what? I'm not into calling people names, but that's just ridiculous. You can't keep up with me, so stop trying, okay? Same person who, quote unquote, think the thought, and then the thought that you thought would have been thinking. You had to think the thought before the action got... Now, if that makes sense to you, because it damn sure didn't make any sense to me, because... So you're gonna drag me? Really? Well, I have a few choice phrases that can drag you, okay? Drag me then. Believe that, okay? They just mad. Creatures are mad because when I am no bulldagger, I do not believe in lasciviousness. Fuck what you heard. Fuck what you read. And creatures are mad. They want so bad to... I don't like to say this because it's just doesn't even make any sense. Why would you want to be like someone else? Okay, we're waiting for everyone else to come in. You all paid for this, so let's just wait for everybody to get in, okay? All right. It is always my great pleasure to speak with you all. Always, okay? So the reason I went through my change from psychology to theology is because, here's why. We are going to go through the obviances or the caveats of the mind, okay? Now, if you look at that page I gave you, that I emailed you all, the top is from a psychological perspective, and the bottom is from a spiritual perspective. Okay, now give me one moment. I just want to check for questions. Okay, yeah, I still have a lot of stuff I have to go through, but okay. All right. So, yes, the top is going to give you points of view from psychology, and the bottom is going to give you points of view from psychology. Okay. All right. So if you have any questions, you know how to send them, or you can just type them over. The definitions on the top of the page is from psychology. The definitions below the psychology is from spirituality. Typing them in the chat, you could have sent them to via my website. That's where I like to get my questions from. Okay, so I have 3 platforms running here. So I'm gonna try to get everybody, because it's going up on 3 different platforms. Okay, I mean, I have 3 cameras running plus Zoom. So, well, Zoom is one of the 3. So I'm gonna try to get my attention on everyone. Okay, because that's if I'm talking to someone. Okay. As if they are so important that I have to impress. I don't give a damn about you people. Only people I care about, the people who follow me. Let's just say that. Okay? People who take my content seriously. Okay? And that's probably, okay? So we're going to leave that alone. So I just had to get that out because, I'm so exhausted because I'm trying to hide my true self. Oh, yeah, right, bitch. You're not that important, okay? Keep digging. You may find out who I really am. So let's start without any further ado. So try not to interrupt me in the chat because I want to run through this, okay? I want to run through this as fast as not as fast as I can, but it's a lot, it's a lot that I have to get through here. And then I want to see if there are any questions about these topics. The rest of that can wait. I'm telling you, I am getting backlogged. And it is so exhausting. And of course, if you want to support the channel, I have a lot of essays out on Amazon under Talking Spirit Leaves, and they don't cost that much. They will, if you purchase the essays, it contributes to my channel so that I can bring more content to you, okay? What I have written is not a bunch of rubbish, okay? Useless banter and a bunch of rubbish without any proof behind it, okay? Now, as we go through these concepts, I'll try to think up some examples to help you all understand where they are coming from, okay? Spiritually, I got it. I can hit the nail on the head. But psychologically, well, it's not a reach, but we'll see. Okay, let's see. So we're going to talk about the mind first. The mind is comprised of, okay, if you want to hold your comments, because I like to get through this, okay? All right, and then I'll get to your comments later. But let me get through this, and then I'll ask, and then you all can type whatever you want in there. Okay, so the mind is comprised of energy and intelligence. Okay, that's mind. The mind, from a spiritual perspective, from a psychological perspective, the mind is what animates the human body. Okay, that's from a psychological perspective now. Okay. Now, consciousness. Oh, let me back up. I forgot to say something. See, that's why I don't like talking in the chat, because I forget stuff. So let me back up, okay? So the mind, consciousness, and thought are not the same thing. The mind, consciousness, and thought are not the same thing. The mind is broken down into a few categories, and we're going to go through the ones that I deemed that was more important, for me and for you, hopefully, So I've already said that the mind is energy and intelligence, okay? From a psychological point of view, that is what animates your body, okay? It animates your body. Now, from a spiritual point of view, which I know by heart like the back of my hand, it regulates the formless, okay? The unseen, the formless, okay? Are y'all following me? All right. Now, consciousness is not, it's a part of the mind, but consciousness is to be aware. It is called awareness. Okay? Awareness is it's only one awareness. There's my mind does not carry a spirit of fear. Okay? I don't fear anything or anyone. Okay? But my awareness allows me to be aware that there are dangerous people out there who, if they could, try to hurt me. That is awareness. It's not fear. Fear and awareness are two different things. Awareness is, well, I know that there are a cornucopia of people running around in this world. I also know that of that cornucopia, there are a plethora of people who would do me harm if they could, either one way or another. They're constantly looking for ways, constantly. And here's what I say to that. Get off me. That is consciousness. That is just the awareness of being alive. Okay? Now we're going to move to thought. Okay. Now, thought is the ability to think. I think it was Descartes who said, I think, therefore I am. Okay? I think, therefore I am. If you're not a thinking being, what are you? You are a vegetable. You're nothing. You're a zombie. Putting on a show. Trying to be intellectual when you're not. I don't consider myself intellectual. I don't. I really don't. It's just that I made excellent use of my time. I am a reader. Back when I was younger, I was curious about a great many things. Okay? And I kind of dedicated my time to learning about those great many things. Okay, so I can put it like this, so that when I got to this point of my life where I should have been raising children of my own, I don't have to fake the funk, okay? I don't have to fake the funk, so get the funk out my face, get the funk out my face. So, unfortunately, I don't have any children. No, I don't have any children, because if I had children, my child would not get with a bunch of dunce, bunch of slaves, and allow them to speak ill of me or do ill things to me. That is that wouldn't be no child of mine, okay? I don't have any children, nor do I want any at this juncture. Thank you very much. Now, back to thought. So whatever it is you think you're clinging on to, cling on. Cling on. Oh, Lord, I knocked myself out. Thoughts, okay? Now, a thought is the ability to think. Now, it's not only the ability to think. Let's see, how can I say? It allows for experiences, personal experiences. So when you encounter someone, well, first of all, you have to have awareness, first of all, because if you don't have an awareness, then if you encounter someone, you're not going to be able to think deep enough to say, hey, this joker is full of nonsense, okay? You're going to have what spiritualists call an innocent mind, not a childish mind, not a naive mind, but an innocent mind. I mean, I love innocent people because when you encounter innocent adults, you don't have to worry about being stabbed in the back, so to speak. You don't have to worry about that. You don't have to worry about anybody talking behind your back. When you run into people who have no awareness about life, then that's when you run into those sorts of dark things. People stealing, people hacking. They have no awareness. They're always in that survival mode. We'll get to that. So let me stop because I'm getting ahead of myself. So thought is the ability to think. And I already said it allows for personal experiences, okay? Now I did take some notes. So let's talk about this. Okay, the psyche, the mentality, the soul and spirit, cognition, and intellect are not the same thing. There are a great many functions that your brain is performing, both visible and invisible, in the form, in the formless. Your brain is very powerful. I'm not going to say, I'm not going to say it is the most important part of the human body, but it is one of the most important parts of the human body, okay? Because your heart, okay, your liver, your kidney, all that, those are forms, but they also have, in spirituality, they are forms, but they also have formless. Psychology only speaks to the form. Spirituality speaks to the formless, the invisible, okay? Thank to Satan for that, okay? That, you know, that's where, and also that is where that dualism comes from. That is where that welcome, okay? That is where that dualism comes from, okay? The brain. Okay, so I've already said that all those things I just listed are not the same thing. So now we're going to break it down even further. Not farther, but further, okay? We're going to break it down a little bit further, okay? It's different, you know? When you're listening to, well, when I like to fall asleep listening to, rain falling on YouTube and, something like that. But I fall asleep, and sometimes those programs end, and someone end up in my feed talking. And if I wake up to the frequency of someone's disgusting voice, your voice also is going to denote what frequency you are on. Okay? All right. If you're listening to someone and you can't stand their voice, now that goes both ways. Now it could be you or it could be them that's just not on the same level. Okay, one could be lower, one could be higher. It just depends. Oh. But I know when I'm listening to someone, or if someone comes through my feed and I'm asleep and they start to talking and I sit right up, I'm like, ew. Get that shit off my TV. Yes, you automatically know. Empaths know exactly what I'm talking about. People who are sensitive to lower thinking people, or what do they say? Low frequency people. I can't do it. Okay, so now let's go on and let's talk about the brain, and let's continue to break it down even further, okay? So let's talk about the soul mind. Now, in psychology, the soul mind is going to represent the heart of the brain, okay? That's the soul mind. So when you hear people talking about, well, you may not hear people. Well, it depends on what type of audience you are listening to, okay? So it just depends. But if you're in an upper level, if you're listening to someone that is on a higher level, then you're gonna hear them talk about the soul mind, okay? So let's break that down. So the reptilian mind, okay? The reptilian mind is people who live out of their reptilian part of their brain, they're always in survival mode, They're always in survival mode, like, oh, I gotta do this, I gotta pay this bill, I gotta go over there. When you see people always speeding up and down the street, that is a reptilian brain, because they have not evolved they have not evolved any other areas of the mind. So they're always speeding. Oh, I gotta get here, I gotta do that. I mean, even if they're going right up the street to Walmart, I mean, they zoom past you just to get in there to turn. I'm like, dude, lady, I mean, goodness, we was just 3 blocks away from the turn, and you gonna zoom around just to get in there? And I'm like, Lord Jesus, please. So that is a reptilian mind. They're always in hurries or fight or flight or survival mode. That's very stressful, because I remember back in the 80s, they were saying that men of color, I'm saying men of color, not just African American. African American men are not the only colored men in America, but they were saying men of color were always living in the fight or flight or survival mode. They were always stressed out. So due to that, they develop heart issues like valve issues like high blood pressure, etc., etc., etc. Now, there have been different studies since then. That's why I said in the 80s. Okay, listen, comprehend, all right? Now, that is from a psychological point of view. Now, from a spiritual point of view, always do your own research. Always do your very own research, okay? You don't have to believe anything I say, because I've got my papers on the wall. So if if you just want some insight on spirituality, then I'm the one, to come to. Okay. So we were talking about the reptilian brain. That's why I have to take note, because I'll get off track and start talking about something else. It's not what I intended to talk about. So we're on reptilian brain. So I already explained to you the psychology point of view. Now allow me to explain to you the spiritual point of view of a reptilian brain. And I may even give you some examples. So a reptilian brain from a spiritual point of view is a person who has no joy. They can't find happiness on zero level. They're always angry, always pulling someone else down, or these are the type of people that if you say, hey, I have an idea, a light bulb came on, they're gonna say, oh, that's not gonna work. You need to just put that down. You just wasting your time. Those are reptilian brains from a spiritual perspective. Now, if you ever encounter someone like that, don't feel bad. Just say, oh, well, thank you. Thank you for your input. Okay, and go ahead and do whatever it was that you were thinking of doing anyhow. Okay, because like my Uncle Richard used to always tell us, nothing beats a failure but a try. Capiche? That's how we were raised. So fuck what you heard, fuck what you read. I'm telling you what it is, okay? Now he used to say, nothing beats a failure but a try. Now, I'm sure he didn't make that up. He probably heard that from somewhere, but he passed it on to us. And I thank him for it. All right, so now the reptilian mind, they can't find joy. They can't find empathy in humanity. They can't find empathy or sympathy. See, these are the people, here's your example. These are the people who will take money or who will attack a person with no thought. Now, before I even talk trash about somebody, I have to, and all my people who have talked to me, all my friends will tell you, I will say something like, I can't really speak to that because I really don't know him or her, or I really can't speak to that because, you haven't told me what actually happened or something like that. I don't get into anything without a comprehensive understanding about what is going on, okay? People who do not have empathy, people who cannot stop and say, hey, hold up, wait a minute. Would I want someone to do my son like that? Would I want someone to do my daughter like that? My mother like that? Would I want someone to do that to me? Those are reptilian brains from a spiritual perspective, okay? They have made a choice, and the choice they made, the door to value was shut. Okay, I'm just gonna give it to you blood raw, and I don't care who like it and who don't. I'm not for anyone, and I'm not against anyone. Y'all who have paid for this lecture, I thank you. It's always a pleasure for me to come on here, but I'm not for anyone, and I'm not against anyone, okay? The only time you hear me being stark against something is when I'm talking to family members, and that's my prerogative, okay? So that is a reptilian mind. Okay, they have no empathy, none whatsoever. These are the people who live in lasciviousness, okay? A reptilian mind is a man who sleep with other men, but he still go get married. Come on, animals don't even do that, Come on now. If you are sleeping, if you are a man and you are sleeping with another man, you don't have any business being married to a woman. If you are a woman and you're a reptilian mind, you don't have any business being married to a man, okay? Period. That's lasciviousness. So that's reptilian mind in a nutshell. Okay, so let's move on and let's talk about the body mind. So in psychology, the body and the mind was kind of similar to spirituality. The body and the mind are not separate. Okay, so they believe that the body, the flesh part of you, and the invisible part of you, your brain. They believe that your flesh and your brain are connected. That's what they believe. At least that's what they propagate anyway. That your body and your mind are interconnected. So that is where they get, oh, we're all interconnected. La 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 la. Okay, that interconnectedness that they're spewing out. See, people don't have any comprehension. That is why it's important that you comprehend what is going on. The interconnectedness doesn't mean that I'm connected to you and you're connected to Sue and Sue is connected to Mark. That's not what that means. The interconnectedness that they are talking about is your brain being connected to your flesh as one. Okay? Now, that is the psychological point of view. Now, from the spiritual point of view, it's slightly different, because from the spiritual point of view, everything has to be balanced. Your mind, your spirit, and your body. Because if you're not balanced, mind, spirit, and body, why would you even think that you're connected to someone else? I'll wait on that. It is important that your mind, your spirit, and your soul, your spirit, and your body are all balanced. Okay? And how you get, okay, so psychology believes that you're interconnected and you can't be separated. That's the way they say, oh, he's a narcissist. La 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 la. Spirituality says something different. When you are out of balance, let me just put it to you, straight talk. Okay, something has taken over your spirit, your mind. That's out of balance. You have given yourself over to what we call demonic control. Now, psychologists call it narcissist, but we call it demonic control. See, there's a difference. And you see, that's why I left psychology, because la 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 la, la 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 la, you know, it is useless. It is better that you tell me, hey, it's the demon trying to get you, you know, than to sit there and say, oh, your boss is a narcissist. I wouldn't end the word, not for a person who can't distinguish the two, would probably be like, oh, well, he just want to be seen and all that. Honey, it is much, much deeper than that, okay? So your body mind needs to be balanced, okay? That is your body mind, and it is actually coming from your cerebellum, okay, from a physical perspective, okay? That's why the human body is both form and it is also formless. Psychology doesn't teach that. See, I had to learn that by experience, okay? So that is your body mind, and I hope I was clear about the connectedness. Now, the difference between body mind is that psychology think they can't be separated, they're interconnected. So, spiritualists believe, oh yeah, your mind can be hijacked, okay? That's how they hijack your soul. You know, they first hijack your mind, and then when the soul goes, So he's a narcissist. Okay. All right, so let's move right along. We're talking about the limbic mind is next. Now, the limbic mind, now if I remember correctly, the limbic mind is where your emotions are housed. Okay, they're housed there. Okay, it's above the brain, just above the brain stem. That is where your emotions are housed. Okay, so the limbic part of the mind houses it, doesn't control it. It just houses it there. So let's see, from a spiritual perspective, now I keep forgetting, from a psychological perspective, that's just where your emotions are housed. La 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 la. So from the spiritual perspective, it mediates your spiritual experiences through feelings, and it is also, okay, let me think about that a minute, because, all right, so, okay, let me just draw on an experience of mine here, because all I wrote down was limbic mind, and so, your limbic mind is the bridge between, how can I say, reality and spiritual. So, for example, I should write this down so I have it for the next time. Just a little note there. Okay, so your limbic mind bridges okay. All right, let me just back up because it's coming down a little too fast. So your limbic mind is the bridge between, if you on a higher plane or on a higher level, your limbic mind is going to act as the bridge between reality and divine, the heavens. Because that's what divine is. Divine are people that come from heaven. Divine are heavenly hosts. Divine masculine, divine feminine. They're divine. They're from heaven. So if I say heaven, some people will understand what I'm saying. If I say divine, then they'll think I'm talking about something running around here in reality when I'm not. Okay. So your limbic brain is what allows you to experience let's say, for example, if you are, let's say you fall asleep, which is not sleep at all. You're actually in some type of trance. That is where your mind leaves your body. And let's say you fall asleep and all of a sudden you open your eyes and you see this and that and the third going on. Good or bad, okay? Point of reference, once I woke up in that state and I was in the greenest, bluest place I had ever seen. I had never seen green so surreal. And I bent down and I touched the grass because it was like it didn't seem real to me. I was like, and I touched the grass and it was real. I mean, it was actually grass. And then I looked to the right and there was a frog sitting up there looking at me. And he was green and blue and had some specks of yellow in there. And his eyes were yellow. I mean, he was beautiful. And I looked at him, he hopped away and I woke up. The trees were so beautiful. I mean, I can't even describe how blue the sky was. It was just surreal. I just couldn't believe it. I was like, oh my God, that was a beautiful place. And the waters was clear. Yes, the water, was clear, totally clear. You could look right straight down to the bottom. It was clear. So your limbic part of your brain is what allows you to experience that, whether it be good or whether it be bad, I was watching a YouTube video and I heard this person say, oh, I woke up and I was in hell. I was like, oh my God. Shit. Which I know hell and heaven, it's not a place, but for that person, it was hell. I was like, oh Lord, I don't ever want to wake up in a place like that. No, thank you. But I didn't listen to that because I don't want it in my spirit. So I just don't. I don't want that kind of stuff in my spirit, so I don't subscribe to it. But I listened long enough to know that he was saying he had died and went to hell. I was like, no thank you. All right, so let's move on. So we're talking about next the emotional mind. Okay, so your emotions are, how can I say? Did I skip one? No, body, mind, limbic mind, and okay, emotion. We're on the emotional mind. Okay, your emotional mind is your, trying to think of how I can. Okay, your emotional mind on a spiritual level, how can I say? It is your compass, okay? The key is balancing it, okay? Everybody has emotions. If you're walking around in this realm, with a few exceptions, okay? And we're not gonna go into that right now, and people have emotions to a certain degree, okay? But the key is to keep it balanced. So if someone insults you, you don't want to act out of emotion and, insult them back. No, you don't want to do that. I mean, I wouldn't. If someone insulted me, I'd be okay. He or she did that. Okay, he or she did that. And I would avoid that person for the rest of their lives, especially if we work together. I would avoid that person for the rest of their life. Because first of all, why are you insulting me? You don't, There's no reason to insult another person when you are adults. You could just say, hey, I'm not feeling well today. I'm not in a good mood today. That it'll work. Trust me, it works. You have to keep your emotions balanced, okay? You have to. Now, that's from a spiritual point of view, because your emotions are your compass. It's letting you know, it's like an antenna, okay, this person doesn't like me. I get it. Okay, he was faking. Got it. You're gonna feel a little sad. You'll be like, well, dog, I really did like him. I really wanted to be at least friends, and he go and do, or she go and do something like that, so you're gonna feel, you're gonna feel that, but it's not gonna be dragging on for years and he dumped me, he called me a bitch 30 years ago. Okay, you still walking around talking about something someone did 30 years ago? No, I'm going to remember, because remember, emotions are your messengers. They are there to let you know. Remember, this person did X, Y, Z. Remember how you felt? Okay, got it. All right, that's what emotions, that is the job of emotions from a spiritual point of view. That is called balancing. Okay, don't people to say you shouldn't have any emotion. Okay, they done went all the way. You have to be balanced. You have to walk the middle path, the middle way. Okay, remember, this and that are true. So you have to walk the middle way. You're gonna feel something. I mean, if somebody pop you in the eye, you're gonna feel, some kind of way. I'm sure I'm not gonna sit up there and someone hit me in my right eye. I'm not gonna say, okay, hit me in my left eye now. No, that's not gonna happen. Okay, so that's from a spiritual perspective. Now, from a psychological perspective, people that are not balanced, they act out of their emotions. Okay, I remember back in the 90s, a guy ran his truck into Luby's cafeteria. I remember that. I was on Fort Hood back then, but he ran his truck into Luby's cafeteria. That is an emotional and uncontrollable emotional outburst. When something takes over your mind and then it takes your soul, it can control you 100. Okay, that is a severe emotional reaction. Someone did something to him he didn't like, and he wanted to take it out on everybody. Okay, that is what psychology calls an emotional outburst, because psychology only calls it an emotional outburst because people are acting out of their emotions. Okay, it's okay to say, hey, person X did that and I felt bad, but I'm not gonna go and get an Uzi and hunt person A down and shoot up his house because he disrespected me in some kind of way. That is called balance. It's not called weak. It's not called naive. It is called balance. Because if you go and shoot up somebody's house, SWAT is going to get you. I guarantee you will not get out of that alive. Okay? Guarantee you. Okay? So it is called balance. Okay? That's his prerogative. He had the right to handle that the way he handled that. I would not have handled it that way. I wouldn't have handled a person or did a person like that, but that's his evolutionary level. So, hey, you have to respect people. You have to respect their choices. And I did that. Enough said. Now, we're going to move on and talk about the neocortex mind. Okay. This is in spirituality, this is the big kahuna. Okay. This is where everything functions from. In spirituality, everything, your senses, your intuition, all that functions from your channeling abilities. Okay. Your ability to see visions comes from your limbic brain. Your ability in everything comes from your neocortex. Everything. I mean everything. So from a spiritual perspective, your motor skill, all that comes from your neocortex. It is the higher order of all of your functions. Okay. When you are out of balance, when let's say you're sleeping and you feel something holding you down or riding you, or having some type of sexual encounter with you, that is your neocortex allowing you to sense all those things we just went through. Okay, that's the big kahuna of it all. Now, when something is out of balance, you can't do anything but lay there. But when things are when things are balanced from a spiritual perspective, you're gonna say, because you have a thinking mind. I think, therefore I am. So the first thing I would do is say, you know what, this is not real. I didn't tell anyone I wanted to have sex with them. I didn't look, when I laid down and went to sleep in my home, I was alone. I did not invite anyone in the bed with me. So in the name of Jesus, and as soon as I say Jesus, I wake up. Okay? So when something is trying to take over your spirit, which is your mind, if they get your mind, they've got your soul. If they get your soul, then they're going to eat you up and rip you apart. Now that's real nickel shit. Okay, not that mamsy-pamsy psychological shit. She's just depressed. Oh, you're walking around all sad all day, been that way for 30 years. I'm like, I know a woman that I had been knowing since I was at least 6. And this woman still talks about the hurt she sustained when she was in her teens. Enough said, okay? I'm giving you some examples. So when you encounter peoples and they say, oh, I remember when, now emotions are your messengers. They're gonna let you know, hey, wait a minute. Didn't XYZ do that back in, year 1? And you're not gonna dwell on it. You're gonna be, now when you see XYZ, you're gonna be, oh, hell no, I can't, and you'll go on about your business. But you're not gonna sit around for years saying, he cheated on me. He stole my money, and God could have been gave you exponential dollars. Since he stole those 10, God could have done gave you millions upon millions upon millions. All you have to do is, okay, he did that. He could have that considered charity. Okay? And in closing, I'm going to close now, is that when people steal your soul's energy, do not take anything back that they have taken. Okay? Don't do that. Don't do it, because you don't want that. You don't want that type of energy that's been mingled with them. Well, I don't. I don't know. People have their own little ways of doing things, but I let them keep it, because first of all, what they purchased that item with, that health that they receive, that vitality that they receive, is not theirs. And the minute that you align all these things that I just talked to you about, they're going to lose it anyway, because they built it, 1, without your permission. 2, it wasn't theirs to begin with. Anything they build with someone else's energy belongs to that person. Okay? Believe that. It is true. It is a law. Okay? You don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure that out. That's why I would never touch anyone else's energy, because of that and other things. When you don't know what you're taking. That person may look good as sunshine and beautiful, but you don't know what is 10 years down the line was waiting for that person on her energy or his energy path. And you done pulled that shit into your world. Okay? I don't do that, because first of all, you can't see that far. You get what you get. Okay, I can't see that far. So if people are falling sick, if you're saying, Cheryl May or Nina May took Cheryl Lynn's energy and now she's sick, now Nina May is sick, okay, well, what does that tell you? You shouldn't be doing that shit, okay? In Jesus' holy name, I have to keep myself laughing. But I needed to let all you channelers and spiritualists and those who are having outer body experiences understand these phenomena from both the psychology and a spiritual point of view. Now, it is up to you to choose what's right and what's wrong. Okay, you just give it to me blood raw. I don't candy coat nothing because I might miss something. Don't candy coat it. Okay, don't try to pump me with pills. Don't do that. Okay, just give it to me blood raw and let me deal with what I have to deal with. Okay, so thank you all for watching, and thank you all for your donations, and I hope that the lecture has been stimulating. I try to keep it stimulating. Some people want to compete with me and they are intellectually deficient, because the thought that you think is the thought. You have to think the thought before the thought was thunk. Okay? Okay. So, I'm so mentally exhausted because I'm trying to hide who I am really. I already told you, bitch. You're not that important. So thank you all for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day, because I will. Bye.